Welcome back to our 2026 football preseason interviews. David Hines from North Buncombe High School. You're now, I think, like one of the longest tenured coaches in your conference. It was kind of funny how it kind of happens like that all of a sudden. North Buncombe is a team outside Buncombe County, obviously North Buncombe County. Coming off of a 2-8 season. They're in a tough conference, though. We're gonna get into that, and they do have some returning players that are pretty exciting this year. But guys, first I have to tell you, this year the videos are brought to you by Talk It Out NC. Talked Out NC's mission is to reduce underage drinking by fostering open, honest, and ongoing conversations between adults and young people. Just like winning a big game, preventing underage drinking takes teamwork. Parents and teens can visit talkitoutnc.org for resources to start the conversation about the risk of underage drinking. Coach Hines, like I said, coming off a 2-8 season last year, there were some close games in that mix, for sure. What was the overall theme of the offseason, and what's kind of been the main point of attack in the offseason?
The biggest thing for us at this point has been continuing to work on what we've done in the weight room. We had a lot of guys gain a lot of weight, put on the right kind of muscle. We had a lot of guys who needed to trimmed a little bit. And I think anything when you're coming off, several of our games last year were very tight in parts of those games. And, close game to open the year with Cherokee last year. And we had a couple things not go our way. Then you move into Brevard. It was a 21-7 ball game at halftime. And, how good they were last year.
Right.
It was 7-0 middle of the second quarter against Reynolds last year. So we have all these things that we've talked through often is we want to work on finishing. We want extra rep. We want to do whatever we can do to push ourselves past that point of just this program's trying to do. And that's been a focal point of what we do in the weight room, in our spring practice, in our summer practice. It's always kind of that one more mentality, one more rep on the field, one more rep in the weight room, one more stop on the field. Whatever we're doing, we want to have that mentality in what we do. And we feel like we've had a very good spring, very good summer so far. And it's crazy that we're 3 weeks out from getting rolling.
Yeah, it's weird. I think this year the start date is July 29th. It just feels early to me. I don't know why it feels early, but I guess that means we're closer than usual. So here's the big thing. So last year, 6 seniors on the team. This year, we're looking at 18 to 20 seniors. It's overall, we're looking at 16 starters back from last year. So guys that have starting experience back. Last year's team is very young. This year's team has a lot of guys back. And like you said, staying in the weight room for a whole extra off season, it's going to be helpful this year. I do know that there might be a staff change this year. So we're going to go through the staff first here.
Yeah.
The new coordinator on offense and the rest of your staff.
Well, offensively, Parker Swearingen, who was with me last year as a line coach, is going to take over play calling duties. And we are adding in Darren Hill, who is coming in to help with us. Going to be coaching a little where everybody's kind of helping each other. Our defensive staff will help our offensive staff helping defensive staff in what we can do. But our head baseball coach is Andy Runyon, and he's stepping away for this fall and on-field duties, but he's going to be helping us with some of the behind-the-scenes stuff and helping us on game nights and things like that, do some things. So Michael Mershot's going to coach our quarterbacks. Jeremy Laster is going to help with running backs, and so is David McKinney. He's coming over from defense last year, and it's just a natural fit for him. He was a running back here back, I guess, 30 years ago now.
Wow.
So him and Coach Laster were both running backs together on one of the last really, really good teams here that went 2-3 rounds deep and in the 90s, and it's important to have those guys because they have this hand in the community with getting kids out. Parents know them, and the kids play for them because they know what those guys did when they were here. And I'm kind of stepping away from the play calling. Obviously, as a head coach, you still have the hand in what's going on, but I'm working real hard to work with my coaches to help them find their footing and help them find what's best for us and what we're doing offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
Offensively, I'm excited about what we're getting ready to do.
Yeah. So we'll get into that here. So it starts with the running back, Kingston Denson. He's been the top rusher in the Mount Athletic Conference the past 2 years. He's going to be a senior this year. I'm sure the other teams are kind of happy he's a senior, so they don't got to deal with him anymore after this year. But tell us about him as a player and what makes him so special for you.
Kingston has a knack to not go down after first contact. I mean, that's been something that as a freshman when he was on JV till now heading into his junior year, there is this level of intensity when he runs the ball that is just a little different. When you meet him outside of the field, he's this mild-mannered, yes, sir, no, sir. He's pretty quiet. He has a good time, but when he steps across the white line, there's this switch that flips, and he is an uber competitor and really becomes the focal points for the teams that we're playing each week. They know we're going to run the ball. They know what's coming. I mean, in 2 years, he's got 2,300 yards, and they know that in this conference, there are a lot of good running backs. And so we are going to see a good running back across from him. And he's got the mindset of that kid is as good as I am in some people's mind. I want to be better tonight than him. And he runs like that. And he is an unselfish guy. Like he's one that'll say, Coach, I think they're keying on me. Go to him. And you don't always see that out of a kid like that, but he will answer the bell anytime. He'll be a decoy if he needs to be. And those kids are special. And I am appreciative of what he has done. I really feel like he is this close from picking up one or two offers. I know that coaches have invited him to some stuff and wanted to see him do one or two things heading into the fall. And it's just, he's had a good camp summer. He's had good camp spring. I mean, he squats a house. I mean, he's one of our strongest kids on the team, and that's his work ethic, and it's infectious. So I'm just proud of what he's done.
Absolutely. And, another exciting part of this is there's 4 starters back on the offensive line blocking for him. So tell us about that group in front of him and how they're going to help pave the way for him.
Absolutely. Yeah. The guys that are coming back on the offensive line, when you can bring back 4 or more offensive linemen, that is a huge key in that if they take the same big step forward that we think he's taken, and we really feel like they're going to. I mean, they're anchored. Julian Lanning is, 6'4", 330 pounds. And also, when he moves, he's got decent feet, which helps. Avery Kemp has been a 1.5-year starter. He started about half his freshman year, and, he's 6'2", 6'3", 270 pounds and moves like he's 225. And then we've got Preston Carrico, who's our center. He's about 210 pounds, but he's been doing it now for 2 years, and it's just smart with the way he plays the position. And then we've really got 2 other guys who played 1 or 2 of the positions, Landon Yop and Lucas Huey. And, may slide to some tight end this year from his tackle spot. But he's played center before too. And, when you've got the cohesiveness of that many people up front and you're a run-based offense, it is always a good thing to have those people up front for multiple years in a row with running back who trusts and understands how they're going to do for him.
Yeah, totally. Looking forward to seeing that run the game for sure. Well, tell us about the other guys on offense. I know there's other guys back as well, in addition to Kingston, quarterback, and tell us about some receivers as well.
Well, I don't know, 3 or 4 games this season last year when our top guy kind of went down with a knee injury, and he scored 3 or 4 touchdowns in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we're expecting a lot out of him in what's going on. Our plan is to put the ball in the air a little more this year to kind of balance things out. We don't want people to be able to load up the box. So if they've got to try to take away the running back, we want to be able to take what we want on the outside. And, we've got some guys, this is one, obviously. And then, we don't know whether he's going to be a tight end or a receiver from time to time, but we've got a 6'6", 189 guy who we'll talk about in a little bit, plays defense. Probably one of our all-conference guys coming back. We're going to try to put him on a little offensive side of the ball this year a little bit, just to take advantage of being 6'6". And he can catch a ball, he can track a ball, he can do some things. So we're going to try to get him involved a little bit. It's Brock McMahon. We're also going to get the ball in Kingston's hands in the air a little bit this year. Collier Laughinghouse is probably going to play a little slot for us. He can play anywhere. His freshman year had a pretty devastating leg injury playing Brevard on JV, and had a pretty bad break. And last year, you could tell early in the year there were still some thoughts of it, but by mid-year it was gone. And he really played a big defensive backfield, but we're looking at him a lot in that receiver area this year because he is dynamic with ball in hand. And then, there's Luke Banks. He's kind of played quarterback and some DB for us over the last few years. He's probably going to play a little bit of receiver. Brendan Rios, Logan Slack. We've actually got some guys this year, Blake Rains, who are moving up from JV and give us a little bit of depth out there that we really haven't had a ton of depth at the receiver position, which is why we haven't been as heavy throwing, and then with Lucas Keeper back at quarterback, we've even toyed with him being out at receiver a little bit from time to time, take advantage of 6'4" as often as you can to get it in an athlete's hand. So it's one of those things where we feel like we're in a better position this year offensively than we've been in any position that I've been here in on that side of the ball. And we're excited about what those guys are going to be able to do out at receiver. We've got some good possession guys. We've got some good take over the top guys. And that's what we want.
Well, that's exciting to hear for sure. Yeah, it sounds like things are kind of lining up perfectly this year for that offense. Well, we'll flip it over to defense. You already mentioned a couple of these guys already. You mentioned Brock McMahon, your 6'6" tight end. He's also your leading tackler in defense from last year. I guess starting with them, tell me about some of the guys on defense and what you're looking for out of them on that side of the ball.
Well, defensively, I really feel like we have taken a huge step forward the last couple of years. We've been able to stop the run in some games that we hadn't been able to stop the run in, where we've lacked is some faster teams. We've struggled a little bit, but we've worked on some things this year to work on our speed and work on our agility to kind of work on that aspect of things. So as we have worked on that, Brock McMahon is a huge piece of what we do. He is a returning all-conference player. He was in the top 5 in tackles in the MAC last year. He is just a nasty downhill guy. Can play safety, can play outside backer, and probably can play inside backer if we wanted to. Like I said, he's like 6'6" now. He's kind of grown a lot. And he has spoken with his body, and a lot of times you'll see that out of the tall and lanky guys. But when you talk about Avery Kemp as an offensive lineman, I think he's an even better defensive lineman, and that's not taking anything away from him in regards to what he can do offensive line wise. He's a guy we really feel like is going to solidify one of the sides on defense, and people are not going to be able to do very much on his side. Then when you look at Collier in the defensive backfield, Brendan Rios is coming back this year after having some sickness and things last year. So he helped solidify us a little bit. And then Luke Banks has been a starter at corner for us for 2 years, and he got hurt last year midway through the year, and it was noticeable. Like, he is that kid that makes all the tackles that comes to his side, but you would never think that if you walked into a crowd and saw who he was. I mean, he is strong, but he doesn't look like he's just going to be a run stopper. As a corner, we can really trust him to stop that, and he doesn't really give stuff up in the passing game either. So it's high school football, so you really don't have the shutdown guy, but he's as close that I've had since I've been here. I trust to put him on an island from time to time. And, those little things like that really make a big difference. And, I could name a ton of people, but that group as a whole has taken such a big step forward this year with our ability to do things on the field that we haven't been able to do the last few years.
Yeah. Do you have a side of the ball that you think is ahead right now, or is it hard to tell before the pads come on?
I would say the defense is probably a little ahead, and that's because we're doing some things differently on offense. And, it's very similar to what we've been doing, but it's a little different with a different person calling it. And, Coach Hawkins has been calling the defense now for a couple years in a row. So while I don't think it's a ton behind, I think the defense is a little ahead. We've been pretty successful in our 7-on-7 stuff so far. We've thrown and caught the ball pretty well, but we've also caused a lot more turnovers in 7-on-7 stuff here that we haven't. And I said football, but it's given our guys work that we don't normally get another year. And we've had going to have had 4 7-on-7s this year, and we've never had that many. We've usually done 2. And I just wanted to get our quarterbacks reading defenses and our defensive back playing the ball, and we've done a really good job. But I would think defense is slightly ahead.
Okay. Another thing that's going to comfort you, I think, the kicker, Noah Hinch, is back from last year. He kicks and punts for you. He's going to be a senior this year. Just how comforting is to have that back as well, as long as along with the rest of the guys are back.
I think anytime you can have that part of your game handled by a guy from multiple years, Ryan Moffitt helped us some punting last year, but Noah did a lot of the punting. He did most of the place kicking, and he's done nothing but work on his craft over the last 6-8 months. And it's nice to be able to look over and go, okay, Noah, go, and that what you have to expect and what to expect from that kid when he goes out on the field. It's no different than any other position, that if you've got a multi-year guy coming back, it's one of those things where there's that sense of ease in your mind that you hope it continues to be as good as you think it's going to be. And I'm excited for Noah. I think he's got a big future, big leg, so I for him.
All right, and last up before we go here, tell me about your thoughts on the conference this year, the Mountain 5A, 6A. Like I mentioned to start the video, a couple of the long tenured coaches are gone now, so it's gonna be a little bit different this year. So where are you kind of expecting out of the league this year?
I think it's one of the toughest conferences, especially in the mountains, if not in Western North Carolina as a whole, or in the state. A lot of teams in the state, and when you've got Reynolds, Asheville, and TC, and then what Irwin's done the last 4 or 5 years, and I really do think Inca is up and coming. I think even with a new coach, that they've got a mentality over there that they play really hard every week, and they've been in some games, should have won some games. And I think we're in that same boat too. I think when teams play us out of this conference, we benefit from playing in our conference. We have to, if we get into playoffs as a 5A team out of this conference, I think when you've had to go up against Asheville and AC Reynolds and TC Robertson week in, week out in your conference, you're not going to see a whole lot of that until the playoffs in the 5A side of things. But I think they were young. They are bringing a lot of people back. Court does a good job over there. Coach Dinwiddie over at TC Robertson, they're stacked. They were young last year as well, and bring back a couple players of the year in our conference. AC Reynolds is a new coach, but he's been on staff. He was around over there. He knows the tradition. I think that it's going to be tough week in, week out. Anytime you play a game in this conference, it doesn't matter who you're playing. And I would love to say that we would be right up here at the top with them. Like every coach would. That's the way we've got to think, and we won't. And but I just think overall that this is a really good conference. These guys play really hard football, and there's so many different styles of football in our conference. So I think it gets us ready for, what's coming if you make the playoffs. And I think we look at things differently in non-conference to prepare ourselves for our conference season. We try to play certain games against teams that get us prepared to play a TC Robertson or a AC Reynolds or an Asheville or an Inca or an Irwin. And mountain football is mountain football, and it's hard, and people come at you for 48 minutes, and that's what this conference does. So, I could see it going any different way here, but I think everybody, I think people are looking at Reynolds as, they've got, Coach Laws is gone. I think they're going to be a really good football team. I think it could go any which way this year. And, I'm excited to see how the conference plays out, because I think there's so many people working with kids and a lot of good players in this conference.
Well, Coach Hines, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for coming on and telling us about your team this year. It's going to be an exciting year in the Ballon 5A, 6A, and looking forward to seeing what North Buncombe can do with all those stars back and all that extra experience this year. As always, we appreciate it, and best luck to you this season.